Imagine jumping in your car, hitting the gas, and blasting down the highway without having any idea where you're actually driving. Sounds great if you're just blowing off steam, but what if it's a bus with passengers? Many businesses do the exact same thing every day when they try to manage risks without setting clear goals first. If you don't know your destination, you can't map out the route and identify potential roadblocks. Welcome back to this series on the 17 principles of the COSO Internal Control Integrated Framework, where we break down each principle in plain language and connect it to real management, risk, audit, and governance situations. In this clip, we're looking at Principle 6, which sits under the risk assessment component. Principle 6 states the organization specifies objectives with sufficient clarity to enable the identification and assessment of risks relating to objectives. This principle dictates that setting concrete, explicit targets is a mandatory prerequisite for the entire system of internal control, and doing it well sets you up for success. In plain language, this means before you can figure out what might go wrong, you have to know exactly what you're trying to achieve. Think of it like using a GPS. You can't map out an efficient route or spot potential traffic jams and construction roadblocks until you type in a specific, clear destination. For even a slight change in destination, a completely different route might be more efficient. For a business, this means translating vague corporate wishes into clear goals with measurable targets, explicit deadlines, and assigned ownership, so everyone knows exactly what success looks like. Principle 6 is under the risk assessment component. Within this component, it acts as the foundational gateway that feeds directly into the other three principles. Look at the logical chain. Principle 6 forces you to define your targets. Once those targets are clear, Principle 7 steps in to identify and analyze the risks to achieving them. Principle 8 builds on this by assessing specific fraud risks to those targets. And Principle 9 ensures you evaluate any major organizational changes or external changes that could disrupt them. You can't logically assess a risk, detect fraud, or navigate change if you haven't explicitly defined what asset or target is being put at risk in the first place. Setting objectives clearly helps people focus. According to Herbert Simon's bounded rationality theory, setting clear objectives helps people operate effectively by providing helpful constraints, which reduces the cognitive strain when evaluating a course of action. This reduces doubt and uncertainty, improves confidence and clarity, and gives people something to align to. The three COSO objectives, operations, reporting, and compliance, are the three categories that organizational objectives typically fit into. Let's look at how this principle applies across such objectives. For operational objectives, this focuses on the everyday efficiency and safeguarding of assets. Rather than stating a vague goal like we want to grow, management specifies an objective to increase manufacturing throughput by 12% over the next 2 quarters while maintaining a defect rate below 0.5%. That precision allows the operations team to isolate specific risks like machinery wear or supply chain bottlenecks. For reporting objectives, the focus turns to accuracy, reliability, timeliness, and transparency. A clear reporting objective might look like close quarterly financial books within 4 business days with 0 material adjustments from external auditors. This gives the finance team a benchmark to pinpoint risks like manual data entry errors or weak subledger reconciliations. For compliance objectives, it's all about strict adherence to laws and regulations. A vague goal like follow environmental laws, it can be replaced with ensure 100% of industrial wastewater testing logs are submitted to the regulator by the 1st of every month. Instantly, this clarity highlights downstream risks, such as lab testing delays or sudden staff turnover. Weaknesses in this area cause the entire system of internal control to collapse into a chaotic, reactive environment. Without explicit boundaries, organizations experience analysis paralysis. Their risk assessments become bloated and unfocused because they're evaluating every possible bad scenario in the universe rather than threats specific to corporate goals. Drawing from goal-setting theory, vague goals lead to poor performance and extreme strategic drift. Employees experience high ambiguity, making it completely impossible for them to recognize when a critical operational process has dangerously drifted off course. Ultimately, you can't establish a risk appetite or define how much operational variance you're willing to accept if you don't have a stable baseline target. Preventative controls ensure objectives are built right from the start. These include a formal objective setting charter and SMART template policy that mandates all departmental goals follow a strict SMART criteria. A strategic cascading review workflow within enterprise software that forces division heads to map local sub-objectives directly to board-approved strategic pillars. An annual risk appetite calibration workshop locks in quantitative tolerance thresholds before execution begins. Detective controls spot when goals are missing or drifting. These can include a KPI to objective gap analysis performed by internal audit to catch orphaned metrics or strategic blind spots. Automated KRI trigger alerts that flag when active operational variables deviate from baseline parameters. Corrective controls realign the ship when defects are found. These include a strategic alignment remediation protocol triggered when a market shift or regulatory change makes an existing objective obsolete, or a formal objective recalibration and board reapproval mechanism for major structural shifts like a corporate merger or an acquisition. A risk transfer activity shifts financial exposure, such as utilizing contractual service level agreements with liquidation damages, which embeds performance objectives into vendor contracts and financially penalizes them if those specific objectives are missed. An organization that does this well might have very tangible high maturity evidence available. Look for formal board minutes showing active debate and explicit approval of strategic targets, clearly documented materiality threshold frameworks, and HR records proving employee performance bonuses are directly tied to achieving these specific objectives. Also look for a golden thread map, documentation showing an explicit, uninterrupted line where a high-level corporate goal cleanly breaks down into operational sub-objectives, KPIs, and KRIs at the department level. For management, this principle means ownership. Management can't delegate objective setting to auditors. They must step away from vague corporate jargon and own the architectural design of the cascading goals framework. For auditors, Principle 6 serves as the absolute baseline for the entire audit plan. Before testing any control, an auditor must think critically and ask, are management's goals clear enough to make risk assessment possible? If objectives are vague, internal audit should immediately flag that downstream controls are likely to be misaligned or ineffective. For the board, this principle impacts their ultimate governance and oversight duties. They must hold management accountable by ensuring corporate strategy is translated into transparent objectives that preserve stakeholder value, stay within risk appetite, and maintain legal compliance. The key takeaway is simple. You can't protect what you haven't defined. Internal control doesn't start with rules and restrictions, it starts with clarity of purpose. Thanks for joining me in this exploration of COSO ICIF Principle 6. Leave a comment below and click the like button if you found this useful. Subscribe to my channel for more videos on this topic, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video, looking at Principle 7, Identifying and Analyzing Risks.